Hello. How's it going? Let me tell you something. It's not going fantastically with my game currently. So yesterday, I might have done something pretty drastic. So I've effectively deleted all my code. But here and there might be some small things still left. But most of the functionality is completely gone. Okay, these were just some UI stuff that I kept because they were just custom elements. But if you look at my simulation, is this deprecated folder that's got basically everything I have in there. And then outside of that, there's a few things that I kept and then a few new things that I made. These are, this is all the new stuff I wrote in the last 2 or 3 days. So yeah, that feels amazing. So the main reason this happened was I rebuilt things like this logistics system and this mining, not this one, the mining system, right? And, you know, rebuild is, well, it's not entirely true for the mining system, for instance, because I just made a bunch of placeholder functions here and that I still intend to implement, right? But yeah, that's essentially what happened. So now, yeah, so why did I do this? What was the point? Well, I tried to get the game to look a little bit more procedural, maybe a little bit more data orientated, maybe a little bit more ECS like. It's not entirely, I know that, but it is somewhat. So if you look at the logistics system, I have some data, right? And then I have functions that just manipulate the data. None of these, so this does effectively everything my old logistics did typically. So all the ships and the freighter behaviors and the hubs and all that stuff technically still happens. But now it's effectively all in one big file. Now, I'm not going to keep it in one big file necessarily, especially these classes down here. I just liked keeping them here while I was figuring out what everything should do. I also implemented the new corridor system, which required me to redo and rethink the way shipments and cargo work entirely. Right, so that's kind of a thing now. Yeah, I'm still thinking about if I could make this a little bit more ECS-like, because this is still very much like it's still mostly classes, right? But at least like none of the behavior lives inside of these classes. I just use them to organize my data. And the nice thing is, or the nice thing I hope that'll happen is I can easily find all the data. I'm even thinking about potentially putting this data not in here inside the logistics system, but a level higher. Like just so inside the simulation manager. And then hopefully that'll help me get the game saving a little bit simpler. Okay, but what that did was, so I built this, then I started to try and implement this. But obviously, what happened was there were a couple of conflicts in my code. So I was like, okay, cool, I'll just delete this thing, or I'll comment this out. And then five other things that were dependent on that broke. So I was like, it's fine, I'll just comment those out as well. That caused 25 other things to break. And before you know it, I had to comment out virtually all my code. And that was especially the case when I started with the modules and stuff, right? All these modules are effectively no longer gonna do anything, right? The concept of a module doesn't exist anymore. But everything was built around the concept of a module. The module was where a lot of my gameplay took place. Some of it took place in some of the specialized nodes, but, the module certainly did a lot of work. So as soon as I started doing this, you can imagine. The concept of a structure doesn't really work anymore, right? That's not a thing. I'm getting rid of this hierarchy of object orientatedness. Now, I probably don't need to do that entirely. Maybe I can have some of it. But I think what I'm going to try and do, but I'm not entirely sure yet. Maybe I can lean into, like I said, I think there's a way I can do this implementation better so that I use a little bit more ECS-like thinking and not just locally store my data like this, but so for the freighters, instead of having a bunch of freighters, I might have a bunch of entities that have, and then lists or arrays of these things, right? Which would be more ECS-like. But yeah, this is at least a start. This will work, and it will help me in some ways. And then later on, we could try again to refactor this a little bit more. Okay, but for now, there's a bunch of stuff now in here that doesn't work anymore because I deleted a bunch of scripts. So the structure panel just complains now. Right, so I might as well delete this. Yeah, unfortunately. So delete that. The persistent panel still exists. Solar system panel, this hasn't existed in a very long time. Vulkan panel hasn't existed. The pop-ups, they still work, so I'll keep them. Okay, Vulkan itself, this is an interesting one. The Vulkan view will still be Vulkan upgrade. I don't think I use that, but it's still something. It's just got it was connected to virtually nothing, so it didn't break, so I didn't have to go and fix it. But the solar system Vulkan, you can see it doesn't exist anymore, and the region Vulkan doesn't exist anymore. And there's a reason for this in some way. I would still like to visually see Vulkan in regions or in a solar system, so there's still something to be said for this. But I think I'm just gonna manage it all from my Vulkan view, which I kept. Right? Clearly, I kept it. So these scripts are pointless now. I might have to re-implement some of them, because if I think about this, my hovering and things like that might have been working there. Yeah, that could have been why I needed those, right? The region view Okay, so let's try and get them back, right? So these things, I mean, yeah, but you can see there's so many problems now. But technically, I do want the Vulcan region view and the solar system view because of the hoverable thing, right? So let's just comment out what breaks currently, and then we can come back to this later, but at least it's still a valid script that we can come fix when the time is right. But I tell you, this is very painful. Like, I basically deleted the whole game. And I guess the solar system view will have a similar thing. Like, it's still good to have, because I still want to be able to select it, you know, do all the highlighting stuff. Okay. I just have to figure out what the UI is actually going to do now. Yeah, so maybe we do this. And then we add them back to Vulcan over here. No, man. Starting position. Okay. Okay, something like that. Let's keep going. My light doesn't matter. Global volume. Okay, there's some stuff there that I could probably, you know, organize a little better. But anyway. Okay, now we got all these regions. I think most of them should still be fine, because the region view I definitely have to keep. Right, I don't know if there's anything inside that is now broken. The logistics hub view I kept. This is just a anchor position, that's not nothing. Okay, so they mostly fine, because they pretty much stay the same. Okay. That's good. Now, the zoomed in view. This one's a little bit more different, because here we have sub-regions, and we have, well, yeah, we have sub-regions, right? And technically, the sub-regions are no longer a concept, right? Not really, anyway. Yeah, no, the sub-region idea is gonna go away. So the first thing I think I must do is I must just open a region, or the base region, and get rid of the sub-region. Wait. That gets rid of... What does that get rid of? That gets rid of... Okay, logistics hub view are pretty annoying. That doesn't necessarily get rid of anything important, right? Yeah. So yeah, it gets rid of the outpost and the anchor position, which I think is fine. Okay, yeah, so I do still think this is right. So we get rid of this sub-region. The logistics hub can still live here. We're gonna do other things here, but... Yeah, okay, so the planet is still there because it's a region object, apparently. Okay, so now we should see less of the sub-regions, but now all of these planets have sub-regions. Okay, they should have all lost at least one of their sub-regions. But okay, if we view all of them, we can clearly see there's a bunch more. Okay, let's not do that. Let's do them one by one. Hey, my coffee is getting cold. Okay, let's continue. Earth. Oh no, this one has a couple of sub-regions. Get away, all of you. The whole concept of a sub-region is no longer a thing. Mars. Delete, delete. These asteroids, I don't think they really ever became anything, to be honest. We'll have to go back and do something with them, but for now, they're not that important. Okay. Jupiter had a bunch. Saturn already had a bunch. Now, there will be something like a sub-region. I'm basically going to add resource deposits instead. And they'll work a little bit differently. So that's why I still need to remove the sub-regions. Okay. I think that's it, right? Okay, everything is clean now. Region objects, region base, region prefab. You're trying to save prefab with a missing script. This is not allowed. Okay, which one is missing? It seems like this. So the logistics hub view is obviously still there. And then region zoom view is somewhat there. Maybe it wasn't the zoom view. Would it have been in the solar system, one of these regions? We have the region. Well, let's see if we go into the prefab itself. Oh no. It might have been I tried to save the thing with the outpost still there, or the sub-region. Okay. I'm just going to play the game and see what happens. It's not going to work. I'm not going to get my hopes up, but I just want to see some of the errors that it throws currently. Okay, so that's fine. Yesterday, there was still a lot of warnings telling me that, look, there's some objects here without scripts. This, I completely get. This is... This should be the case. Yeah, okay, so this is one of the issues. The start position for Vulcan doesn't exist, etc., etc. Okay, so we'll slowly start rebuilding this. There's a couple of things I think I should do, though. So I want to come here into my game, and in data authoring, I have my game data spreadsheet. Now, since there's such a massive change, I actually want to go here and do file, save as, game data underscore v2, right? So this is going to be for the new prototype. Okay. Because we're going to be hacking this thing apart. So first of all, there's a few things I've changed as well. So you'll notice already, I have this new thing here, recipe matrix. And this is the way I should have done recipes from the start, because this way, you know, I can at a glance see what things take. Here, I can't really do that because the recipes are put in these columns and it's very tedious to read through. So first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to delete this, fix my recipes a little bit here. So all of these still exist. My resources, I'm not redesigning or implementing them. Crafting time and amount, I think these two columns can go away as well, because they are pretty much part of the recipe, right? Energy used to craft, this is no longer a concept at all. Getting that out of the game. So this is my new resource. A little bit simpler. And it's still got a recipe to craft, right? So that's fine. Okay. Then we have this fuel thing. Resources I9. This should be equal to, not that, but it should be equal to, if you go over here, volatile matter required for industrial chemicals. And this should be equal to the volatile matter required for, well, it's going to be industrial chemicals multiplied. If you look at the advanced repellents, how many industrial chemicals it uses. So those two, so 35. Essentially all this tells me is the base resource use. And then this is a fuel efficiency. So it gives you an idea. The fuel multiplier gives you an idea of, how much better the fuel is. So one industrial chemical is 10.5 times better than one normal volatile matter. First of all, you use 7 volatile matter, but you get a 50% efficiency gain, right? And this is kind of like the specific energy also for the fuel, right? If volatile matter is so we could rename this to specific energy. So if volatile matter has a single point of energy inside of it, so that would give you an idea of how good it is to use as a fuel. So you have to burn a significant amount of this to get some energy out of it. Industrial chemicals, 10.5 times better. Advanced propellants, 70 times better. But I mean, by the time you've processed it into advanced propellants, you've used 35, but you do get an efficiency gain, right? Okay. So that's that. Structures are no longer a thing. Yeah, let's just unhide everything. Yeah, so the whole idea of a structure is kind of going away. I guess not entirely necessarily, but it is somewhat going away. So there will be new types of structures. Yeah, so some of these, I mean, some of these ideas are just going to go into something else, but yeah, we'll see. Power recipes, I'm taking this out entirely. So this I'm just going to go delete. Extraction rates. Okay, this is the type, this is something specific for a module. No longer a thing, really. Producible resources. So this is just... Okay, this was me trying to sort out, you know, where things are produced. A refinery, advanced processing, that type of stuff. Yeah, no longer a thing. A region. Okay, regions are still a thing. Okay, sub-regions are not a thing. But this spreadsheet could just become my resource deposits, right? Because clearly what this did do is give me the resource deposits, right? These ones. I could just get rid of everything that's a 0. And then we can work from there. Ships. Ships are a thing. I like the ships. I just need to rejig something. So I don't have... Okay, this is no longer a thing, right? Ships... resources are containerized. Which means any ship can take any resource. The difference is going to be how much resource can fit into a container. So in the resources tab, actually, I need to do a new thing here, insert, and call this container size. And, well, container size, I don't know. This is a weird way of thinking about it. This is the amount of resources that can fit into a container. So we can say something like, 50 of the basic resources. Structural alloys, these can all still be 50. Okay, but now we can say something like, okay, high performance composites, maybe 10 semiconductive materials, 20 microelectronic substrates, 20 advanced repellents, 50. Then fusion cells. Now these things we could say, most of the container is some kind of a containment, to make sure this thing is safe. So it's only like 5. Same with this. Metastable matter and exotic field lattices could be like 2. And the idea in my head is that, okay, this stuff, these are just rocks. You just throw them. Well, let's say this is like 100. Volatile matter, a little bit more complicated. It's like you need to barrel it, right? Heavy elements, maybe it's more dense or something, so you just can't load that much. And another thing I actually want to do here is I want a density for these. but now that I think about it. So this is effectively going to give you the total weight of a container. Okay, let's think about this density. Total mass. Right, if I had to think about it like this. And we can, we can start with a density of 1 or 2 here. Let's do a density of 1. No, wait, actually I want this to have higher density than that, and this, yeah, okay, these can still be a density of 2 basically, and industrial chemicals can also be a 0.5. Composites, you see now, is maybe a 1. Superconductive materials, maybe a 2. Microelectronic substrates, maybe that's a 1. Advanced propellants, a 0.5, right? A fusion cell. Okay, these should be pretty dense, I feel like. Quantum processor, maybe not so much. Metastable matter. Maybe also super dense. Exotic field lattice, maybe not so much. Okay, so then the total container mass is going to be equal to whatever the container size is multiplied by the density. Right, something like this. Now, I really want to do this here. Okay, so the idea would be this is going to factor into how quickly a ship is moving, right? And then the ships or the freighters are going to work differently with their the way they calculate their speed. So their speed is going to be a whole mass plus container size times density. Or in this case, I could just do total container mass. And then the amount of containers, obviously. So if they can take 200 containers, they can always just take 200 containers, but there's a difference in the density of the things inside the containers. So perhaps it's very lightweight containers like volatile matter, so they fly pretty quickly. And other times it might be very heavy stuff, like dense ores and stuff like that. Okay. Okay, fuel. Okay, this is fine. So this is just my fuel multipliers and stuff like that, and that's okay. Okay, now structures, nodes, modules. Okay, so sub-regions, I'm going to rename this into resource deposits. Deposit. Is that spelled correctly? I think it is. Yeah. Okay, so if we look at this, so these are obviously all the resources we can have. And I was kind of thinking of potentially adding more resources. But I don't know. You know what I could do? I could have a requirement here. That might be kind of interesting. So this might be something like your some kind of a tech that you research, right? How do we get this thing to be normal again? Okay. Yeah, so this is some kind of a tech. So if I think about it, okay, so the sun orbit, you're never gonna mine the sun. So I'm just gonna remove the sun orbits as a... Okay, this is gonna be deposit number. Okay. Okay, so let's think about the way I want to make this work. So first of all, I actually want more mercury. Okay, so this is how I did this. Yeah, so this could be, you know, the metallic ore deposit. You know, and honestly, yeah, I'm not gonna... do I do the deposits in the same way? Do I do something like this? I think each deposit should have one kind of ore. I think so. I think that's what I want to do. So deposit, this is my deposit resource. Yeah. And I feel like this, I should control this. So I should do, is it data validation, something? I don't remember. Yeah, data validation. Allow, no, from a list. The source list is these 4. Okay. Yeah. So then I can copy these, all this just like that. Okay, so now I could only have one of those 4. Okay. So this is metallic ore. Okay, great. Let's insert and insert. So I'm going to do requirement and amount. Okay, and these, okay, you don't need data validation here. Okay, so this is just simply how much, or no, this is the rate. That's how quickly we can get that specific deposit. And this is a requirement. Now the requirements, this is a tech level, I would guess. Yeah. So currently I haven't really thought about this, but essentially all you're going to do is upgrades essentially to allow you to just exploit a different or new type of ore. But anyway, I'm not going to go there just yet. So metallic ore, you know, the rate. Now again, I have no idea, but let's do 40 here. Let's do a silicate ore of like 30 heavy elements. This could be a 10, and then you know what, let's do another metallic ore of 14. So that's essentially what it's got. Venus. Yeah, I think we could do 1, 2, 3, 4 Venuses. But Venus is essentially just gonna be volatile matter deposits, and they're not gonna be super great. We'll do like 25 for each. Now Earth, this is essentially going to be the moon, right? So let's limit it to 4. To 2. Right. And we're going to say that you can get your metallic ore and your silicate ore from Earth, no problem. You know, and the rates are like, I don't know, 35. Okay, Mars. So Mars has itself got a bunch of stuff, but it also got 2 moons. Right. See, now here's where I'm thinking, should I have multiple deposits per moon? Should I have 1 deposit per moon? Should I have multiple deposits? Yeah, I kind of feel like the planet itself could have easily 4 deposits, right? I should... you know what? I'm thinking I should maybe... Okay, this is going to change. Let's be honest. This is like balance stuff now that I'm also doing. So I can't... Okay, so we have metallic ore, silicate ore, heavy elements. Let's say we have 1 deposit of each on the planet itself. Now, this is where it's interesting, right? The rate is linked to a couple of things, right? It's dependent on how much... Ooh, I should also have another column here. Fuel or energy required. And the idea here is like, look, you can... Okay. Depending on, you know, there's a specific... Okay, we could do this in a couple of ways. So it might be slow, but it also might just require more energy. So there's a way to balance this, right? So I don't know exactly. But we could say something like, you know, Mercury, and this is now where I need information about like... the gravity on different planets and moons and stuff. You know what? I'm just going to ask ChatGPT. I think I've asked it this before. Okay, I'm trying to redesign my extraction for the different planets, moons, and asteroids. And I want there to be an energy requirement to extract certain materials from these planets. And I think I want to link that roughly to, you know, the gravity of the planet. So if the planet has very high gravity, or you have to descend all the way to the surface to mine, you'd need significantly more energy or fuel to be able to, you know, get down there and get back up. So there's a cost to exploiting certain resources. And, early game it might be better to exploit moons or potentially asteroids, and maybe even late game, but, planets might be a little bit more difficult because you simply don't have the fuel. So I want to do that. Could you give me a overview or a list of like the gravity of all the planets, maybe relative to Earth? And potentially what the moons could be as well as the asteroids. Asteroids, I want to make them basically no gravity, but maybe still a little bit of fuel, but no gravity essentially. Doing quick research. Okay, so energy required, or we could do energy multiple, maybe. Okay, so energy required. Oh, come on, just give me a nice table here, man. Okay, I like the energy cost categories that you made there, or multiples. So with the this last gameplay category, that's good. Could you give me a table for all the celestial bodies with the energy cost multiplier as suggested there? So I don't have to scroll up and down while I populate my spreadsheet here. Okay, so let's do this. No, I don't know. It gave me the moon names. I don't know where all these moons are. Okay, I don't know my moons that well. Could you give me, if you give me a moon, which is great, maybe make another column for planet, just so I know which planet this moon comes from. Okay, let's go and see. Okay, so we're about okay, so Mercury we can do a 0.4 multiplier. This is now relative to Earth, right? Venus is a 0.9. Earth, okay, well, Earth, Moon, this is Moon. So maybe I should... Yeah, I should maybe... It's a region ID, I guess. Resource deposit, so... I need to do something like... celestial body. Planet. Oh, yes. Okay, well, this is just actually going to be Mercury, right? This is going to be Venus. And this is going to be Moon. Just so I keep track of that. So the Moon itself is actually quite big. So it's got more gravity than you would think. In comparison to the other things in the... Okay, then Mars... Okay, so Mars... Is Mars smaller than our Moon? No, not quite. 0.4. Okay, so we can say this is Mars itself. Maybe these 4. Then Mars has 2 moons. You see, we could put a lot of resource deposits. We just have to make sure they are not like super easy to get to or something. We can balance this later. The idea would be that, you know, you'd need a significant amount of mining operations just to keep up with processing. I guess I'd have to balance this at some point, but yeah. So let's do that. Let's put Mars. Let's give Mars a ton. Okay, so this is going to be Mars, and then this is going to be the moons. So I don't know. Phobos. And Deimos. Okay, so let's see. Phobos and Deimos, they are very small. They have a multiplier of 0.05. They have literally no gravity. They are practically asteroids. Okay. Okay, then Mars itself was 0.4. Okay, so let's see. Now we just need to think about what is on Mars. I think one of each of these, maybe a little bit of volatile matter, right? And the rates, yeah, I'm not sure. And I might have to come back and fix all of these anyway. So, but let's do like 25, 25. Heavy elements, 10. Volatile matter, like a 5. Yeah, I'm always concerned about this because there's this thing about, you know, do you put volatile matter there and make it more expensive to extract than it is to, well, basically, you know, if we use more volatile matter per extraction, now what's the point, right? Okay, Phobos. You know, I did this once but I don't remember. Okay, so what is Phobos? They probably just like basic metallic ore and silicate ore. Okay. They are quite small, so I don't want to give the player a tremendous amount of each. So let's just do 10, 10, 10, 10. Right, okay. Okay, now the asteroid field. Now, I'm not sure how I want to do the asteroid field. I kind of feel like I don't want to do inner, core, outer. I kind of just want to do a few regions inside the asteroid field, if that makes sense. I guess this was something to do with distance. But honestly, I don't think... Yeah, I don't like the inner, outer, and all this nonsense, so... So what I'm going to do is just going to call them asteroid _1. Yeah, so this is going to be my idea. So we just have asteroid field. I might have multiple of them, but let's imagine we have asteroid field. Yeah, these don't matter, really. I don't think so. It did give me special asteroids that I could go and mine. Like Ceres and Vesta. And I could put those in there. But I kind of feel like the asteroid should just be, you know, whatever. And I think each asteroid is a single deposit. Right, we don't have multiple deposits. Like each asteroid is a deposit. And yeah. So we can have metallic ore, silicate ore, some heavy metals, some volatiles. So let's just do something like that for now. You know what? Maybe we have a bunch. Let's just do 2 metallic ores, 2 silicates. You know, maybe even... No. 2 silicates, volatile matter... we could say that they are icy asteroids, I guess. And there's like 1 heavy metals. Okay, so asteroids, you know, they will typically have very little fuel use, right? So I'm gonna keep them in this range of fuel use. Now the only question is, I want here to be many asteroids, but very low resource richness, or whatever you want to call it, right? I might change. Yeah, I'll definitely have to come balance this, but anyway, let's just continue for now. Okay, Jupiter. Jupiter has a bunch of stuff going on here. So Jupiter itself, let's start with Jupiter itself will have a 2.5 times multiplier. 3, 4, 5, 6. I think 6 mining opportunities for Jupiter itself. And it's only going to be volatile matter. Right? I think that's good. And I'll actually make it fairly good. But let's see, the best volatile matter I've had is the 25. Now these I think should be like 40s. Okay. Now, the rest of Jupiter, these are moons, right? It's got 4 moons. So there's Io, or Io. I don't know. I think it's Io. Europa, Europa, Ganymede, and Callisto. Okay. So those are the moons, and you know, these moons are actually quite substantial. So if I want to give Mars moons 2 deposits, these moons, which are almost the size of Mars, I guess, not almost, they're like half the size, but still they're big, and they might actually be bigger. I don't know anything about. I do know they are pretty icy, right? So that's let's maybe ask ChatGPT. Okay, so here's another interesting thing I want to do. These celestial bodies, some of them might have different materials available. So my ore deposits that I want are basically metallic, silicate, volatile matter, or heavy elements. Could you give me an indication of, you know, which one of these might have more of each of those materials? Maybe give me a little breakdown of what I could expect on each. Like, I know, for instance, Jupiter, it's probably just going to be volatile matter. You're just scraping the atmosphere, basically. But like the moons of Jupiter, are they very icy? Are they somewhat rocky? I have no idea. I know Io is a pretty interesting moon. I think it's got a lot of volcanic activity because Jupiter's gravity is actually squishing it and expanding it. It's like doing this, like a stress ball, and that's creating immense friction, which is heating the planet, obviously, significantly. Okay, so these are just some generic stuff. Yeah, okay, so we can... and obviously, okay, Mercury, very rich in metallic and heavy elements, because it's got a metallic core. Okay. And not so much in silicates. Okay, well, I kind of got that right. And I basically gave it no volatiles, which is fine. Venus is actually a rocky world, so you could technically get some silicates from here. Okay, let's do some silicates on Venus. Why not? Okay, Earth. Okay, Earth itself I don't care about. The moon is mostly silicates, actually. So there's actually very few metallic and quite a bit of silicates. Interesting. Okay, Mars is quite balanced with some polar ice. More silicates though. So let's see. How did I do Mars? So this may be like a 20 and a 30. Heavy elements. Actually, not so much. Okay, anyway. Okay, the moons, Phobos and Deimos, are both... they pretty much more metallic than silicate. Interesting. So let's just bump up the metallics for now. Yeah, the heavy element deposits, I'm going to have to go look for those. But anyway, Jupiter, basically just volatile matter, right? There's nothing else we can get there. Now, this is where it gets interesting. Io. Yeah, it also recommends I make the asteroids mostly metals. very little volatile matter. I mean, I could do that, so I could do metallic ore, something like that. Heavy elements is also something I'm gonna have to think about because, yeah. Anyway, let's just look at Jupiter. So Io is actually massively rich. It's a very volcanic planet, massively rich in silicates and decent with heavy metals, actually. So I think I'm gonna give each of these at least 2 deposits, I think. Okay, so Io, we can make silicate and heavy metals. And it's actually very good. Well, it's very good with silicates. And actually very good with heavy metals. Relatively speaking, obviously. Okay, Europa is an ice ball. It's just water ice. There's some silicates at least, so you know we can do silicates and volatile matter. So unfortunate, but like that's what it is. Ganymede is a little bit more of an ice rock mix. So we could do a little bit of metallic ore there, I guess, just to give it some more. But then again, a lot of volatile matter. Okay, Callisto. Again, it's mostly ice. Yeah, that's kind of unfortunate. There's going to be so many, like the outer solar system is mostly just ice. It's just frozen things with very little anything else. Yeah, wait, what was Callisto? It's mostly ice, but it says, you know, it's kind of similar to Ganymede, but okay, let's make Callisto then silicate ore and volatile matter. Okay, not a lot. It's also like 515, right? So something like that. Okay, and then all of these, since they are moons, and they're not particularly massive, so they're just 0.2. Okay, now what about Saturn? Now Saturn is an interesting one because it's got many moons. Now, I don't think I actually use all the moons for Saturn. So if we look at a solar system, I think here we can get an idea. Yeah, so you can see 2 moons for Mars, 4 moons for Jupiter, 1 moon for Saturn. So that's the big moon, and then I guess maybe the rings? I don't know. Okay, and then 2 moons for Uranus and 1 moon for Neptune. Okay. Okay, so Saturn having 7 regions. I guess it's okay. Let's see, 4 of them were mostly just... Yeah, okay, I think I made one of these like a research outpost thing. Yeah, let's do 6 regions for Saturn. right? And it's basically okay. So the multiplier for Saturn itself is about 1. It's a big planet, but I guess the gravity isn't very high, right? And then I think we're just gonna do Titan, right? Yeah, I think that's the only interesting thing, really. It's about 0.2. It's good enough. Okay, so Saturn, in terms of resources, has nothing. It's a gas giant again, so it's very similar to Jupiter. It's a little smaller, so there's maybe fewer, but it's still just a gas giant. Okay, and Titan, methane, nitrogen rich. Okay. It's got some of the other stuff, but it's also mostly just gas. I could give it some of the other ore. You know, and then, yes, we're just gonna have a bunch of ice giants. Yeah, I need to make it a little bit more interesting. But anyway, let's give Saturn some, or the moon Titan, some metallic ore and heavy elements. I might have it later on have some special interest or something, but in terms of mining, there's really not a lot we can do. I feel like what's going to happen in the game is we're going to have a massive mining complex in the inner solar system. So, you know, where all the all our asteroids and rocky planets are, and then going out, it's just going to be a bunch of fuel depots essentially. Which I guess is how it is, like, you know. Okay, Uranus, I have 4 here. It seems like 2 for the planet, and then 2 for its one moon. Well, the moon I'm interested in at least. So Titania. Titania. And so 2 for the planet. So what is the gravity like on Uranus? It's actually not that high. 0.75. And then Titania is probably very small. 0.05, yeah. And again, unfortunately, this is not very interesting. Uranus itself is just a bunch of ice. Titania is at least some silicates. It's actually got heavy elements as well and fairly high. Okay. So we can again just do... Now this is ice, so let's say it's a little bit more difficult. I don't know. Now Titania is slightly more interesting, so let's add another thing on Titania then. Okay, so this is volatile. It's got metallic ore, silicate ore, and it's got some heavy elements, which is nice. So we can do not a lot. Titania is pretty bad. So 10, 10. 10 perhaps. That's quite rich for heavy elements, I guess. Yeah, so I mean, getting here and extracting heavy elements is not a bad idea, I guess. But the main thing is going to be getting here. and getting it where it needs to go. Yeah, I feel like, everything up to Jupiter is very interesting, but then these other planets, they kind of lose me with the mining capabilities. Unfortunate, but anyway. Okay, Neptune. Okay, we have Triton, which is... Wait, how many moons did I have for Uranus? Didn't I have 2? I did have 2. Oh. Oberon. I had Oberon as well. What is Oberon made out of? It's the same as Titania, essentially. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you know what? I'm just gonna copy this then. And I'll call this Oberon. So you don't go here to mine Uranus necessarily, you go there for Oberon and Titania. Okay, then maybe it's not that bad. I don't know. Maybe it's okay. Okay, so Neptune is gonna have... I think I gave it 1 moon, right? Yes, 1 moon for Neptune. Okay, let's just get check. Neptune's moon is Triton. Okay. Such a cool moon name. Okay, but what does Neptune offer me? Neptune and Triton. Neptune, again, nothing except for ice and water. Well, ice, yeah, okay, whatever. And Triton's the same thing. Triton might have a little bit of something else by accident, but essentially all we have here is a bunch of volatile matter. It's similar to Uranus in that way because it's all frozen. So we could do that. Triton itself, not really anything else. I mean, I can't... No. I'm just gonna do the same thing. There we go. Okay, now the gravity on these places. Neptune is a 1, okay. And Triton is 0.2, okay. Okay, now we have Kuiper, which is just Kuiper asteroids. So again, I'm going to just call these Kuiper _1 for now. No, these are all Kuiper region 1, right? So okay, now these are basically just asteroids, so, I could make it so that Kuiper is a little bit more interesting. Okay, so it currently seems like the outer solar system is mostly volatile matter and not much else. But I'm looking at the Kuiper belt now for asteroids. How are they typically looking? Is it also just more ice balls, or do we at least have something interesting there? Okay, so it's a lot of... Okay, so the Kuiper Belt does unfortunately have mostly volatiles and some other stuff, but maybe not a lot of it. So what we could do is we could have a metallic ore. I want to make the asteroid significantly bigger, but yeah, no, it's what it is for now. Okay, and then a bunch of volatiles. And we can make this respectable, but not high necessarily. So if we compare it to the metallic ore here, it's actually quite low, but it's cheap. And if there's many of them, I think this is where you're going to go. So I think I want the asteroids to feel small, but also feel numerous, right? So I want to, yeah. But anyway, for now, let's do, 5, 5, and then 10 for all of these. And we can come back and fix this, it is what it is. Okay, and this should be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay, and the fuel use is, again, negligible because we are in an asteroid field. Right. Okay, now another thing I could do later on, so these are just my resource deposits. What I could do is here with requirement, I could get things like maybe technology that you need to unlock or something like that. But I'm not too worried about it right now. Yeah, I think that's fine. Yeah, let's just put all these in here. So these are asteroids. This is simply Jupiter. Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, asteroid. Okay. Something like that's okay. So that's my resource deposits now. Okay, modules, nodes, structures. These things are not really going to be a thing anymore. I could repurpose some of this, but let's think about it. Okay, so a structure. If I had to call these anything, right? So let's just get rid of that because that's annoying. Yeah, I'm not doing the whole hierarchy thing, but I will have things like a mining complex. Right, and then I'll have a processing complex. I will have a logistics hub. Maybe I should name these differently. So do snake case instead. Yeah, logistics hub, that is a thing. Shipyard, manufacturing complex. I'm not sure about those yet. I guess I could have a shipyard, actually. A manufacturing complex. There wouldn't be any need for one, I don't think. Yeah, so let's call this something else. I'm going to rename this to infrastructure. And again, did I spell that correctly? Infrastructure. Yeah, I mean, I can spell sometimes. It's not I shouldn't be this surprised. So we have mining complex, processing complex. So this is obviously the thing we build. You know what? I wonder if I should... Maybe I should separate these. Maybe. Well, no, not really, because I can just put it in here. Okay, so these are the build costs or building. Okay, let's think about this. So power draw is no longer a thing, right? Delete. Build time, that is a thing, right? So it still takes time to build things. Let's just do 100, 100. Yeah, these are whatever they are. Okay, now upkeep. Oh, I think I should also have a research. A research complex. Okay. 100. Okay, well, whatever. Okay, so the idea with these things are, we build them. I'll put the building recipes over here. Wait, don't I put the build time here as well? Yeah, I do. So I actually don't need to put that here at all. Okay, so the one thing I'm thinking is... This is such an annoying thing, actually, but oh wait, there's some other infrastructure I can think of. Insert corridor. No, this is a logistics corridor. This thing should also cost something to build. Okay, but anyway, I have a few things that I am contending with, right? So the one thing is, you know, if I have an upkeep, or I have one of these, so the idea is the mining complex will have multiple levels, essentially, and that basically gives you access to more probes, right? But I'm also thinking about, you know, things like fuel upkeep and stuff like that. So how could that work? So my one idea is these things use power to operate, right? So what I could do is I could say something like, look, if you build this close to the sun, so a mining complex in close proximity to the sun will have a lower energy requirement because the solar panels work very well. But then a mining complex at Neptune, you know, might require volatile matter for fuel, you know, and you can say it's running gas turbines or whatever in the game, right? So it's an upkeep requirement because it's far away. Right, so I want to scale the upkeep based on the distance we place it. Right, so what is the correct place to do this? So these might be maybe base numbers, perhaps. But I feel like the regions are probably the correct place to do this. Because I already have an idea of the positions of these. This is just some calculation stuff I do. But because I know, what the regions are doing, that could work out. Yeah, we can have this solar multiplier thing essentially be an energy requirement. Yeah, I guess maybe we can go infrastructure, and we can do something like this. Insert. So let's remove credit upkeep for now. Okay, so let's think about this. I kind of want to do like a level. Okay, and let's do merge. Okay, so we have level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't know. Right, something like that. So we have 5 levels. And I guess... Wait, let's think about this. So this might be... Okay, you know what? Let's do this instead. I'm going to just insert another... or create another sheet here. And I'm going to rename it to mining complex. Right, and my idea is going to be that, okay, I'm going to take mining complex. Right, so this is my mining complex, and then I'm going to say something like, level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Let's imagine you can upgrade it 10 times. This might be cleaner. Extractors. So this is going to be the number of extractors. So mining complex that you just build might have 1 extractor, 2 extractors, 4 extractors, 8. Now we need to be careful here. At level 10, should be able to basically use all of... So let's imagine Jupiter's 14. Let's say level 10 is about 20 extractors. And then 1 mining complex can saturate something with like 20 nodes. And that might only be like in the asteroid fields where we have that many deposits, right? So if this is a 20, then it makes sense that this is just... the number of extractors is simply equal to that times 2. Right? So that's the number of extractors. But then we could have like energy required. Right? And this could be base energy required. Okay. Okay, so if we think about this, obviously I'd have to balance this in some way, but let's imagine it's simply the... Okay, so this is the complex itself for upkeep. So it's going to be something like this is equal to, the level times 500, right? Whatever. And I might go back and, make this simpler or combine everything into one spreadsheet if it turns out that I'm just multiplying things like this. Yeah, I don't know if I need 10 levels, to be honest. Maybe, maybe we don't have 10 levels. The only thing I feel like shouldn't happen is You know, we have 4, 4, 2, 8. So we could do 2, 4, 8. Okay, here's a 6. You see, so this is a little annoying. There's a 4, there's an 8, there's a 6. So we could change the 6s to 4s or 8s. So if we make the mining complex do 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, you know, that's at least a little bit more interesting. So then your base energy required could be equal to the number of extractors times 500, something like that instead. So it feels like we really get up there. So level 5 is a significant upgrade, but you get 32 extractors. So then I just have to make it worth your while. So that somewhere there should be... There should be a reason to have that many extractors. Oh, you know what? Now that I think about it, how did I actually model this in my manager, my mining system? I think I might have done all of this incorrectly now. So the mining system, if I remember this correctly, the deposit... Okay, the deposit resource has just one resource type. Okay, yeah, so it's got... But there's a number of extractors on a deposit. So each deposit can have more than one extractor. Interesting. So... And I have this max number of extractors on a deposit. What resource? So, okay, one resource per deposit, but you can have multiple extractors potentially on a deposit. Okay, that makes it a little bit more interesting. So we can have large deposits just be, you know, swarmed. So what if I make another level? Level 6. 2, 4, 8. So this is just equal to that one times 2, right? So it doubles with every upgrade. Huh. That might be kind of interesting. So this is the base energy required. And then... I guess required and produced for that matter. Well, let's think about this. Because in a region... Okay, so Mercury is a 1. So essentially maybe, yeah, base energy required and produced. So when you're mining at Mercury, it is essentially producing 100% of the energy. Right, so base energy required and produced by solar panels is exactly the same. So this is energy from solar. Right, so we could just say this is equal to that thing. So theoretically, you know, every time you upgrade this thing, it'll get enough energy from the solar system. Okay, now based on the region, however, there might be a shortfall. Yeah. So if we take these solar multipliers, right, for each of these regions, we get a different story. Yeah, so we could do, just out of interest, Yeah, so this is now our energy produced times that one. Okay, this one should not move in column. Okay, minus this one, like that. So we need 0 energy there. And we can now see how much energy we need for each of these levels. Okay, wait, this one should not move in rows. Okay, yeah, that's more like it. So if you are at Mercury, no problems. Venus, small problems. Earth, also some problems. Yeah, that is Earth. Then Mars doesn't look good. The asteroid belts, not great. Right, and then if the farther you get out, it's really becoming costly to run an operation at those distances. The energy required to maintain okay, something like that is kind of interesting. Okay, but this is just for me to have seen this. Okay, so that's energy from solar, and you know this number is going to be multiplied by our solar multiplier. Okay, then energy required. Now I'd have a credit upkeep. I wonder if we should have upkeep for things, generally speaking. I feel like we should, right? Because the resources need to go somewhere. It gets a little bit complicated to manage all of this, but like if you think about it, the mining, like we are going to go through, let's say, structural alloys and advanced ceramics for the drilling, right? And maybe some industrial chemicals here and there. I feel like that'll be cool. Yeah, I'm actually going to do something like this. So I'm going to have upkeep. So we might have credits, credit upkeep. And then I think what I want to have as upkeeps are not the ores, but like structural alloys, advanced ceramics, and let's say industrial chemicals. Right, these three. And I'm going to try and not make it ridiculously high or anything, but I mean, it's, you know, we're trying to keep our place running, so nothing is running for free, right? So, yeah, something like that. So, credit upkeep. I guess that should just be a base. Honestly. Yeah, I think so. I think I should just make all these multiples. So it's going to be something like a multiple of the number of extractors. Right, so this is... this is just equal to the level to the power 2, right? No, it's not. Not at all. Oh, it's equal to the level to the to the power of the level. Yes. I knew it was something like that. Yeah, so maybe we just do that. And then the upkeep can be, you know, these few things. We could make it so that, you know, high performance composites and whatever. Like these things maybe are more useful for structures or maybe some specialized upkeep stuff. These things are my industrial grade stuff, so, you know, we could even just use all of them. Like so. Okay, so you have accredited upkeep, structural alloys, conductive metals, advanced ceramics, and industrial chemicals. Right. Okay, so let's think about... So this should be like a base upkeep, right? So let's just make a base upkeep. I don't know, 50 structural alloys. Now, I don't want this to be massive. Right, like... Let's think about this. 2, maybe no conductive metals, and advanced ceramics is like the drill bits is like a 4, and then 1 industrial chemicals. Right, something like that. And you know, the upkeep can simply be these base rates. Whoops. Let me think about this. I do want the row locked. Yeah. So it's just these base rates. Oh, man. Ah, jeez. These base rates multiplied by, you know, the level, I guess. Hey, Meg Creates Games. How's it going, man? Whoops. Okay, wait, that's wrong. It's the level, which means we want to lock the column. I'm doing well, thank you. I did have to kind of break my game, but yes, this is Excel. I'm excelling it up here. So yeah, I'm trying to balance, or not balance, I'm trying to define a few new ideas I have for the game. I basically broke the game entirely and I'm rebuilding it from scratch. Which, you know, I guess that's something that happens. I simplified a lot of stuff significantly. Well, yeah, so I wanted to get rid of some of the complexity in the game, especially the hierarchical complexity. It felt very bad. So I wanted to get all the systems, you know, all the gameplay things on like one level, because it felt like you had to drill down in UI like 12 times before you get to make a decision about what you want to do with the game. So instead of that, it might have been scope creep. A lot of the ideas are still there. I don't think I changed my ideas too much, but I definitely made the implementation way too complicated. And when I was playtesting the game to try and make my first devlog, well, I wouldn't say I was playtesting it. I was just playing the game to get some footage for my devlog. It was painful. Like every time I had to set something, I was like, why is this so stupid? Why am I doing it this way? So I scrapped a lot of that stuff, rewrote a bunch of the systems, and then everything proceeded to break anyway. So yeah, it's difficult. And now I'm even thinking, is this scope creep what I'm doing right now? Because now I'm thinking, oh, cool. Now that I've got this other stuff out of the way, let's create an upkeep mechanism. So you have to pay to keep everything maintained. That's also a problem. Hey, Omni Giovanni. An onboarding issue. Yeah, there's a bunch of issues. Okay, something like this could be okay. Now, realistically, we only need one line here, because... yeah. Right, because why do I have multiple lines if I'm just multiplying? Well, I guess this was just to have me think about it. So now, what I could do with the infrastructure itself, I can have each of these have different requirements, etc. Yeah. Oh, thanks, Omni. Maybe you were. I don't know. JW Sus. Thanks for the follow, man. Appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, if I can show you what the game looks like, it's pretty, right? But I can't do anything else. Because it's so broken. I can... yeah. I can't even. You know what is one of the big problems? I don't know if you guys... any of you saw this, but I had it so that the whole... one of the points of the game originally was I wanted to give the player a logistical challenge. I wanted to make the logistics in space idea feel real. Like, you know, it costs something. It's difficult. You can't just have your resources teleport everywhere. And then I proceeded to write a fantastic algorithm that manages all of the freighters and courier ships and all these things to such a... well, and it was so good that, you know, the player virtually didn't have to think about logistics anymore. So, you know, I automated the gameplay out of the game. Like, all you had to do was effectively set up requests. You have to do some configuration to just tell the logistics system, look, it would be nice if I have some fuel on Earth. And then you just don't do anything. And that's not a really... it's a bad way of doing it. Because it's free, essentially, right? So now I made it so that you have to do some building. You have to invest infrastructure in getting resources transported. So the idea now is you build a corridor, and freighters or ships are tied to a corridor. Previously, a freighter, they could just go wherever they wanted. They want to go to Jupiter, they are on their way, right? That's not a problem. Now, I have a corridor system that I've implemented. So let's say, you can't see it, I haven't implemented any visuals, but you can imagine there's a corridor between Earth and Mercury. And, you know, ships are flying up and down, up and down, up and down. If I want to now connect to Mars, I have to build a corridor that connects to Mars. So that's going to be the idea. And then if something wants to move, and this is where it gets interesting, because now congestion actually works. Let's say resources want to move from Mercury to Mars via Earth. The way that's going to work is you're going to load a ship, it's going to fly to Earth, it's going to be unloaded by the logistics hub. That shipment is going to get queued inside the logistics hub and wait for the next available shipment or ship that's going to Mars. So you can now have a queue where previously everything just happened. There was no queue, there was no implementation for that. So now it's a little bit more clever. And then later on, I want to implement a small pathfinding algorithm just to basically have it so that it can... You can try a GDD. I have one of those. Believe it or not. But it's... Look, if you go and look at the GDD, it was... You need to build a logistics system and manage the logistics. The actual implementation was never discussed. And then when I started implementing, I just, made it so simple for the player that there was nothing really to worry about. But now there will be. So there's going to be queuing, there's going to be congestion, there's going to be throughput limitations, there's going to be infrastructure representing the decisions the player makes. So the decision the player makes is not just a configuration. It's not just, click on the planet and configure a setting. It's going to be, let's spend a bunch of resources building this corridor. That's kind of the idea. Now, thanks, Meg. Appreciate that. Appreciate the raid. Have a good evening. But out. Let me figure this out. Okay, so we'll have upkeep. So we'll need energy, we'll need credits, and then we'll need things to just keep everything maintained. Now, energy is an interesting one because the way I'm going to handle this is you could provide energy via multiple ways. I'm essentially abstracting away the idea of you building different types of power plants. The idea now will be you can choose, well, if it's close to the sun, it will basically meet all its energy requirements straight from solar. But any shortfall, let's say when you add Jupiter, you'll have to supply something for the station to effectively burn, right, to produce energy so that it can stay up. So it's also kind of like an upkeep requirement that comes in. I think that's kind of interesting. Okay, but let's... obviously, we'll have to balance all this stuff. It also, with upkeep, it gives... there's a reason for resources to flow through the system. I think that was kind of one of the dumb things I was doing. The only reason resources were ever required was to build something. And if that's the only thing you need resources for, the whole logistics system kind of becomes, meh. There's not really a reason to have complicated logistics. If you just need it once in a while to build a new structure. Now, resource flow is going to have to be a continuous thing because of your upkeep requirements. Okay, so with that being said, what I think I could do is I can go back to infrastructure, get rid of these levels, right? And I can essentially have each of these buildings or infrastructure things have, okay, the number of extractors, that's not really a thing. So we'll think about that now. So we'll have a energy requirement. So let's go here. So we'll have, I don't think this is, so what is this gonna, let's call it capacity. Yeah. I don't know how the corridor works with this or the shipyard. Logistics hub. So this is essentially how capacity scales with levels, right? Because all of these things can level up. Okay, so the capacity, the number of extractors is 2 to the power of the level. How am I gonna... I should just write it out here, right? 2 to the power of level, right? Processing complex capacity is maybe equals level, I don't know. Or maybe this one can also be 2 to the power of the level. 64. No, that's a bit much for processing. So the idea with well, I don't know. Processing is interesting because it takes my input resources and it starts making them into these things. Now, there are 3 tiers, 12 things in total that I can produce. So the idea would be, would it ever make sense to have a processing complex that has 64 modules? Well, actually, now that I think about it, it might actually make sense. And the reason would be that, you're not going to build a single alloy foundry and then that's it for the rest of the game, right? You might build 10 of them at one processing place. So actually, I think infrastructure can also go to the power of the level, right? Now, a research complex, I think this could just be equals level, right? And the logistics hub. So capacity in the logistics hub, what does that mean? Okay, so I should maybe do something like this. Merge, so I can see. What? Yeah, okay, so merge capacity is, what is it? What does capacity mean? And then how does it scale with level? So this is, I need this to be super clear what I'm doing. Okay, how does it scale with level? What does it mean? Okay, so this is literally the amount of extractors. Okay, the amount of processing bays. Okay, research complex as basically the amount of research labs. Okay. Logistics hub. This is gonna be something like a ship throughput. And I'm not sure. Not sure exactly what that means. So ship throughput might be how quickly it can send the next ship. Right, so a high level logistics hub. If I look at the way I've implemented my logistics system. Right, so a high level logistics hub. If I think about it. So there's a couple of methods or functions here. So in the receiver freighter. Yeah, okay, so maybe that's the way I think about it. So if you look at the logistics hub itself, it's got a couple of queues, right? It's got quite a few queues, actually. But the shipment queue and the cargo queue are not really the ones I'm concerned with. It's the unload queue and the refuel queue. And then I guess there's a loading queue as well. Right, but that's living in the corridor itself. Okay. So there's an unloading queue and a refilling queue. Yeah, and I think that's maybe what capacity does. It tells me somehow how quickly ships are unloaded and refueled and loaded. Right. Now, currently everything just happens immediately, so I'm not really implementing that, but yeah. So it's ship throughput in a way, so it's unloading, refueling, and loading speed, essentially, right? Now, I have no idea how this can scale, We could just say equals level for now. The shipyard, I don't even know if that's going to be a thing, to be honest. The logistics corridor definitely is a thing. So we'll just do the things that we know are things, right? So the logistics corridor is already existing. So I think the corridor scales in capacity, ship amount, and speed multiplier. Right, something like that. And the amount of ships could be, this could be very high. So this might be like 4 to the power of the level and equals level. And basically the speed can equal level. So 4 to the power level, so the multiples of ships. So you start with 4 ships and then, 16. So it's a significant bump in ship numbers. And then the speed or something. I'm not sure. I'll have to play with this before I can really do this. Okay. Now the next part then would be base energy required. Potential energy from solar. So I don't have any no reason to believe. Okay, base energy required, energy from solar. So we could just start off with these ones, right? Okay, this is 1,000. Okay, now the thing here is... Oh, wait. I'm not too sure exactly how this would work, but right, it just multiplies an energy by the number of extractors. So it's multiplying by the capacity, I guess. What's happening here? Okay, so this is like 500. Okay, no, wait. So this will just be multiplied by the level directly, I think. Yeah. Yeah, okay, so it doesn't really matter anyway. Okay, so that's just multiplied by the level. Processing complex, I feel like it should require significantly more energy. So like 2,000. And I feel like you could expect it to have that much energy from the sun if it's close enough. The credit upkeep, a bit more advanced, right? So let's do 100. Now, I don't feel like it's going to get a lot of damaged stuff, right? So let's do 111 and like 2 industrial chemicals for upkeep. Okay. Research complex. This one also, I feel like, needs a significant energy requirement. So let's do, 1,000. But the credits are also significant, right? We need to pay a lot of credits. And in terms of maintenance, I think we'll do some structural alloys. But really nothing else except for industrial chemicals, maybe 3. Right, the logistics hub. I feel like we can go with 500 here as well. Yeah, we could even do, 1,000 for the energy, and maybe like 3,000 and 2,000, and then 1,000. So that, it actually it overproduces, but obviously if you go far away, it's not going to work out for you anymore. Okay, now credits for the logistics hub. I don't think that's going to be that much, so let's do 100. I think in terms of maintenance, we'll do 2, 1, 0, and let's just do 1 there. Okay, logistics corridor. Now, yeah, I don't know how let's do little energy. It's not going to be that expensive. Let's also say it gets twice as much energy from the sun. Credit upkeep, like 50, very low. Structural alloys, maybe 1. Conductive metals, we could make this one like a 4. It's ceramics, 0, and 0 chemicals, right? Something like that. It's a little interesting, right? It's just a little interesting. Okay, but I think I'm going to leave it there. I need to run. Need to go check out my my other job. So guys, thanks for joining, but I'm gonna go. Hopefully I can get a lot of this stuff done offline, and then we can actually get back to some code. But yeah, for now that's it. So let me go to ending stream, and yeah, thank you so much. I will see you guys next time.